Hey there, friends. I'm your host, Eric Branner, musician, educator, and founder of Fonz, the platform that helps music teachers run thriving studios. Today, I'm talking with my friend, Anthony Sloan, guitarist, CEO, and co-founder of the Sloan School of Music. What started in 2020 as a family idea in Maryland has grown into two thriving locations, a powerhouse retail operation, and over 30,000 lessons a year. Anthony and his team have built something rare, a multi-school business that still feels like a community, not a corporation. Today, we'll dig into how Sloan School of Music started with friends and family, how they've scaled music without losing soul, what he's learned about running a modern music school, and how his new venture, MelodyMap, aims to serve beginners in a fresh way. Let's dive in. Welcome, Anthony. I'm so stoked that you're here. We've just been chatting, and it's great to see you again. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and thanks for having me. It's great to see you too, and I'm really happy to share anything from our story and anything from our experience that could help anyone listening. I'm grateful that we found each other early on in my career with Sloan School of Music, and we were able to use Fonz from day one, and it's been pretty crucial to helping us grow and scale our business.
Thanks, man. I remember, was it 2020 that we met?
I think so.
I think we met in 2020, which is just a great time to start a music school, obviously, and with everything happening in the world. And if anybody lived that, you probably remember what that was like. You were opening up your first space. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so we had a business plan and a property lease that was a couple years in the works that my father and I had put together. We had hired a former colleague, my friend Bailey, to help us build out the first location and get our business underway. So we spent a long time on the floor plan, the design of the teacher contracts, and just trying to be really careful about who we hired. And then all of a sudden, this pandemic shows up and slows everything down. And it turned out it was a great time to be sharing music with people because as people were shut down and shut inside, a lot of folks decided they wanted to play music. And people who hadn't played in a while that maybe suddenly had time to get back into it and pick up new hobbies found us. And all of our teachers just were ready to go and ready to share. And so we were fortunate in that regard to have a great community of teachers and students that were welcoming to us, and some great reps too, like from PRS and from Fender and Yamaha that had been really kind to us as well to help us get started.
Yeah, and right out the gate, you shared, I think, three or four really important things about that time. And I remember that time really fondly. I don't know if you remember this, but we made like a custom spreadsheet together modeling how your
Yes.
school might look. And
Yes.
that was just transformational for me too, to understand because it just worked. And we were working on this thing together. Then the pandemic's happening. And I remember your space started with a lot of vision. And the vision was to really create this community space and to do it right.
Yeah.
And it just had a great vibe and we really connected really
Yep.
quickly. And you were going
Fellow
to
guitar
sell.
teacher.
Yes, fellow guitar teachers, we just nerded out. And I loved that you were doing this venture with family and friends. There's the old adage of, never work with your friends or never work with family. I started Fonz with a really close friend and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And when I saw you doing that with this great energy that came from it, it was really powerful and it was really memorable. And the other most important thing that I think you just shared is in 2020, when the sky was literally falling, everybody was like, oh, we're so hosed, it's not going to work. A lot of people found great opportunity in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And they said, wait, actually, people want to learn. We're going to sell a lot of instruments. People are going to start taking lessons.
Yep.
And I'm old enough now, I've lived through a couple really challenging moments, 2007, 2008,
Yeah.
that was the time that my studio grew to where I was able to buy my house
It
because
is.
people were taking early retirement and playing. So those moments have always been really impactful business moments if you're there with that energy that you had. And I just appreciated it so much. And I thought it was so cool. Were you nervous about starting a school with your buddies and your
Oh,
family?
extremely,
Yeah.
extremely. I mean, there was definitely a degree of fearlessness. Like we were 100% convinced that our ideas were going to work because we just knew. Like there was no tangible reason why other than we just knew. But there were lots of things that made us nervous. I mean, there were lots of unknowns. Like I certainly remember the anxiety of the night before the first day of business in 2020 when I didn't know if anybody was going to show up to buy anything. And there's been lots of firsts since then. When we opened a second location, we've done pop-up shops, we've hired lots of new teachers, we've made a lot of big changes even in the last year. And so, we're still learning a lot as leaders, and our business is only 5 years old. So, in the lifespan of a company, we're infants still.
Yeah, you really are. It feels like we've known each other forever, but can you go back just a little bit further? Because
Sure.
I would love to hear a little bit about your story. I know it, but I wish you would share a little bit about your background, what led you from kind of zero to starting Sloan School.
Sure. So when I was in college, I was studying classical guitar at the University of Delaware, and I'm a terrible student, so I failed out and didn't really have any academic discipline. The irony, me leading a school now is not lost on me. I think from there, I really just had the hope of becoming a professional musician in some way. I just wanted to be around music and play the guitar for people, and play with others is my playing music with others is my favorite thing to do. And so I just was determined to find some way to pay my bills being around music. I didn't really care what it was. And after college, I fell into teaching after some time working at Sam's Club and working in a liquor store. And teaching was just such a better gig. And I was still going to school at night. But as my lesson studio grew, I was able to create a full-time income. And fast forward a few years, and 2015, 2016. I was a full-time teacher for music and arts, and I had a mix of private students as well. And I was teaching about 60 lessons a week, doing the working cover band thing and playing classical guitar at weddings and solo and wineries and breweries and stuff like that, and just kind of doing the musician grind and trying to figure out what was next. So then my father and and he has a background in human resources and corporate America. And so we started talking throughout the last few years about wanting to work together as we had for many years. And the circumstances kind of lined up for us to start building a business plan together that originally was going to be a coffee shop,
Hmm.
and just like a music themed coffee shop because he's a music lover and a guitar player as well. And after I had a successful teaching business, then we started talking about incorporating music education into our model, and suddenly that became the whole model. And a couple of years in, we had a business plan that was built. We had a lease on a new space, and Bailey was on the payroll.
I didn't know this whole story, and I'm so glad that I asked. I thought I did, but I didn't. The last thing you just said about the coffee house, there is an aesthetic to your spaces that feels homey and welcoming like a coffee house. There's
Well,
something
thank
from
you.
that stuck. And I didn't know that until now, but I remember looking at it and thinking, it really has that really warm vibe, that energy into the space. And that's really an interesting point. But I wanted to just highlight something that every single person that I've talked to, whether they're a composer, performer, editor, music school owner, whatever it is that they're doing, they've all have a very similar thing in common, and it's not, going to an elite school, winning a major competition. It's almost always they find it, and they have a inclination to grind at it, that willingness to just go and go and go and do all the things. And what happens is, and it really keeps coming up again and again, it becomes almost always a three-legged stool. And which is, in your case, you were teaching, you were performing in bands and stuff, and you were doing weddings and things like that. And then you started this company. And it is a real natural arc and progression. And if you're listening to this and say you're in music school and you're getting ready to graduate, it's so different of a path because you don't know what your unique experiences and environment will create for you in the terms of opportunity. And the thing is a lot of people don't look for those opportunities in the universe and grab onto them. I love that you had just mentioned about how your dad worked in corporate America, loved guitar, had an HR background. So you use that to help build the structure for your school and the plan and how you're going to treat your
Absolutely.
employees so well. That's something you had that
Right.
allowed you to take that thing that you really liked and build something really cool. And I didn't know all that. I knew you were working with your dad on it, but I didn't know those things. And I want to point them out because uh, if you're listening, it's not about copying what you're doing. It's about the big picture, which is observing, analyzing what's around you. Who do you know that has special skill sets? Which one of your friends are really somebody that you would want to be in the foxhole with, as they say, as my grandfather used to say? What are the things around you that you can do, and what do you enjoy doing, and what's the opportunity? Which I remember you saw in your community. I remember you talking about working at music and arts
Mhm.
and wanting to create a different thing to serve your community because it needed it. And
Right.
so this brings us back to the night before you opened, because you said I was so
Yeah.
scared and anxious. I've seen you in those moments of being scared and anxious, and I've spent a lot of the last 10 years of my life being scared and anxious. That's a
Business
requirement
owner.
that comes with doing something cool, right?
Yeah.
It's what it takes. So let's go to
Nothing
that.
big comes without a little risk.
Right. So let's go to that moment of just before you started and you're about to open. You've got this beautiful space. You're anxious, and then you open. What happened then?
I had a store that was thankfully full of great people and products that we believed in, and we had customers. We had on our first day, we had some folks show up to buy some guitars and buy some pianos. We had students that had seen us, that had been with us for a long time, come to support us, and they bought shirts and coffee and instruments, and we had family members, and the first day was just such a good vibe that I felt like it set the tone for everybody to realize the what the capabilities were for the thing that we had put together.
How
And
exhausted were you
it
that
was
night?
great. Oh, I mean, I think I was probably passed out on the bed, like
Oh,
dead to the world by the end of the night, just done.
yeah, there's just multiple years in the making. You launch,
Yeah.
but your community showed up. We never had
Yep.
this is yeah, they were there. So you had some headwinds in the first day.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
Had
And
headwinds.
it was extremely fortunate that we were able to start with a built-in lesson client base that moved with our group of teachers that we hired. So we hired a bunch of teachers that were local to the area that had existing groups of clients, and they started with their existing teachers under Sloan School of Music, and we were able to use that momentum to keep growing. And by the end of the first year, I think by the end of 2020, we had, probably 150 students on the books, and that was about the time where you and I were working on that spreadsheet to try to switch us over from a model that was we were had us manually counting every single lesson throughout for 150 students, and to a flat subscription based model, which has been a life changer for everybody. And now we have a scalable model that we can mess with to help sustain our business. That's much, much easier to manage. And it's scaled. We have 700 clients a week now, and we still use the same model.
Wow, that's amazing that how that worked out. When you when you made that when well, I guess I should say this. One of the biggest things I hear from music school owners when they go to open up a school is two
Mhm.
things. One, they have a really hard time getting teachers. They want to teach, they have a hard time finding people who will stay. They'll say, I start my school, teacher comes, they leave, take all their students. And I remember this about your school. It was unique is that you just on day one, you had all these local teachers who were pretty well known. They were good teachers, hot players, good teachers,
Yeah.
and they just wanted to come in. I've always wondered, was that, do you think maybe because of the HR background, how well you treated them and how you put so much mindfulness into how the teachers would be treated? Or was it maybe just because the space was so cool? Because the space was really cool? What do you think? What, in your opinion, what was the thing that made hiring and retaining teachers so effective for your school?
It's a combination of everything you said. I mean, the facility does a lot of the talking, sure. I mean, it definitely didn't hurt that we invested in a nice new facility and were selling premium brands that teachers were not going to have to worry about us selling garbage products to their students. But more so than that, I think it was the fact that we were coming from a background doing what they did. And so between
Hmm.
that and my dad's HR experience, I mean, we were kind of predisposed to set up our business to create a positive environment for teachers and to give them a good paycheck. We had learned from some previous places of business to avoid some predatory practices and to give teachers the freedom to teach how they wanted and to set their rates. and to just make it easy for them to just stay and do their job. And so our business was built to basically take all of the administrative burden off of instructors and to give them the best paycheck of any place in our area. So it was those two things combined with the facility that I think made it easy for us to attract really good talent. And
That is
we still have that going for us, which I'm extremely fortunate and grateful for.
that is really interesting because I think especially a working musician really values that. They've been doing it long enough. They know all the things that come along with running your own studio to do it
Yeah.
right. And to be
You
able to
used to
go
get
to a,
pushed around.
yeah, to be able to go into a space like that where you feel really respected. And the one thing that I hadn't thought of before, but I remember this as a kid. If I went into a music store and I knew right away, I was a young player, but if they had, I remember like the Chinese knockoffs of guitars that some music stores or music schools would have that they'd sell. And I was like, what is that brand? Like, what is that? Like, I wanted like a cool guitar.
Yeah.
And I remember going into stores that had Gibson or PRS or whatever it was, Taylor Martin. To me, instantly, I'd be like, this is where I want to be. I hadn't thought about that until just now, that actually carrying these really great brands is probably helpful for you to create visibility and trust in your community. Because not just everybody gets to carry Paul Reed Smith.
No, in fact, I had to fly across the country and surprise our rep at the NAMM show to get the time of day. I had been talking to him on the phone for months, and he wouldn't give me a price list. He wouldn't commit to anything. He wouldn't come visit my store. But Bailey and I went to NAMM in 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and I interrupted a dealer meeting that he had at the show and was like, "Hey, man, I mean business. Let's talk. I'm here all day. All I want to do is talk to you." And so we made an impression, and so we got a meeting, and after the show ended, he came to visit us and to see our facility, and after the meeting and seeing the investment we were making and how serious we were, and of course reviewing our business plan, it was
Oh,
an easy decision. And PRS now has grown into our top brand along with Martin. We do more PRS business than we do Fender business every year, which is really something considering Fender as a company is multiple times larger than PRS.
really
Yep.
interesting. And
Yep.
this is going to get nerdy for a second. We can talk about this more later. But so do you sell like the SE models to as,
Whole line, dude.
yeah,
All the way
okay.
up to the private stock.
Wow. And
So
if you're listening and you're
when you
not a
come to the
guitar player,
factory, we can build you a guitar.
that's so for if you're listening and you're not, this is my PRS. They're fantastic guitars and they're based out of Maryland. That's where they came from, right? So
Yep,
they're
they're
pretty,
in Stevensville and Kent Island.
yeah, they're close to you, which is also
Yeah.
my neck of the woods. So
Yep.
that's where I was brought up. So that's very cool. So I think that idea of creating an impactful space and then putting the retail piece, embedding that in there, it's really this is a flywheel. That's what I'm getting at is you're actually you're building the business, but you're also really creating trust and brand awareness. When a guitar player drives by a store and sees that Martin sign, PRS sign, they know you're serious,
Right.
right? That means it's a serious story. And when you buy a guitar of that nature, they're really good. Like PRS guitars, I love to get them for my students and recommend them because it's a great value. It's a really good guitar. You can do everything with it. They're almost all good. And it makes so much sense to buy it from a place that knows what they're talking about. Right. And that's why I'm like, you go to a store that is I don't want to knock any of the big box stores, but I'm going to knock the big box stores because I wouldn't buy a guitar there.
Right.
You
Go
go to
support
somewhere
the
who they're
local music
guitar
store
nerds.
wherever you are and talk to the people, ask your questions. They're more than happy to help you. And if you really want to support local businesses, don't ask for a discount. Just
Yeah.
go in
And you
there
get,
and get the guitar, pay the price that they're asking, and I guarantee you will be happy.
yes, because getting a guitar set up appropriately, you
Yes.
buy a $500 guitar and it plays like $1,000 guitar that you may have ordered somewhere
Yep.
because it's set up right. And it's always been a passion of mine. I taught at American Music, a local store here in Seattle for a long time. And I loved that, like how well they treated their customers. We're talking like
And
back to Pearl Jam.
that goes so far, right? That's how you earn repeat business. And a lot of times, the retail customers end up being lesson students and vice versa. Most of our lesson students end up spending money in the store on a regular basis in some way, shape, or form.
Huh. I don't want to get too off track, but I'm so curious about this. Let me ask you a question. Let's say that small school getting started, obviously, you're somewhere in the Midwest. You're trying to get up and running. You're really inspired. You want to do this thing, and you're thinking, oh wow, maybe I'll put a retail piece into this. If you can't just jump out the gate and be a PRS dealer, right? Which not everyone's going to be able to do. Would there be value in maybe having used instruments, like having a good
Oh, yeah.
tech and having used instruments? Do you think that would be something you'd encourage putting into a business plan for a fledgling music school? Getting like what would be the flow of that?
Yeah, there are lots of great ways to run a music school. Let's just get that out there. Like there's not one right way to do it. I mean, I think if you are low on cash and you don't have the budget, or say you're in a geographic territory where there's already a new dealer and they won't give you a franchise, because that's a thing too. Sometimes you might, strike up a friendship with one of those people, but they can't contractually give you a franchise for one of these brands, right? So you can always get used instruments. And if you go to larger stores, like even Guitar Center is probably going to even sell you a bunch of used instruments at a discount. But
Hmm.
if I was just looking to resell, I would go to vintage shows like the Philadelphia Guitar Show, Guitar Fest in Akron. There's the Midwest Music Gear Swap. There's the Pittsburgh Guitar Show. That one's my favorite. There's one in Asheville, North Carolina. They're all over the country. These vintage and used shows. I would go to those, and I
Hmm.
would walk in with some cash and just try to get some deals from people. Everyone is looking to sell stuff. And so if you walk in with cash, you have the leverage, and then you can turn four or five guitars into six or seven guitars, and then you can turn six or seven into 10 guitars, and you can build your way up that way. I know people who have very established businesses that started real small. But I think the best advice on a retail front I could give you is don't try to be everything to everybody, because it's really easy to spend too much money. So
Hmm.
start small with things that you have a demand for, and focus on turning them.
That is great advice. That is great advice. And then go from there. Because
Right.
I never thought about the instruments being an actual driver to bringing in more people into your
Oh,
space.
dude, it's the fully encompassing plan, right? Like if you have a new student who's walking in the door and they've never played before, no one in their family's ever played before, they're gonna walk in and ask a whole bunch of questions, right? And if I have to send them somewhere else to go do half the equation, to go buy a beginner instrument somewhere else, and I can't give them any education on that subject, then I'm slowing the process down. Then they may or may not sign up for lessons right there, and they may or may not come back and never see them again. So if I have all those resources in one place and I can educate them all at once, then not only will I make the money off the sale, but I'll also drastically increase my chances of signing them up for lessons, which has a crazy lifetime value.
Exactly. So, and that's the flywheel is
That's
whatever it
essentially
is.
it.
The people come in because they trust you. They've said,
Right.
and we talk about flywheels a lot and
Right.
marketing flywheels and sales flywheels. They're really hard to get going. And that's why I
Hmm.
kind of wanted to go back a step to ask you what you'd recommend doing. But over time, those instrument signs in the window, and then people trusting that they bought a quality instrument from you for a good value, that
Right.
single purchase. But then they're in your email list, I'm assuming. And then you're offering them lessons. And then they trust you because they know they're walking into a space where everyone knows what they're doing. There's no one. That's why I feel like people like us will always compete with the people who are just running it for business because that
Oh, I
you
couldn't agree more.
lose so much of that once it's just a profit and loss statement. If you love it and you're doing it because it's really cool and you can't believe how awesome this thing you built in your community is,
Yep.
it really turns into this. It's hard to get going, but then it becomes this flywheel. And like you mentioned the word lifetime value. What Anthony was talking about is the lifetime value is how much on average a student will spend studying with you. And that encompasses also the instruments they buy.
Right.
And a one-time purchase has whatever the lifetime value is on the profit of that item or purchase they made. But the lifetime value is when they sign up for lessons and they're paying X amount of dollars every month on average
Right.
between 18 and 36 months. It's kind of an average lifespan for a lot of music schools. So it really is, it's a powerful tool to keep people in that community. And I wanted to, maybe this is a good time to kind of shift over to, it was such a joy to watch how you built that community, you and your
Oh yeah.
buddies at your different, I remember getting on calls and you'd be at Zooming from different counters in the store, or then you'd come
Yeah.
together. But I always really picked up on that. What was in your mind the most one or two impactful things that created a real sense of community in that space and in that, in the Sloan School?
We do a lot of recitals, and we try our best to make them fun and casual. So we don't insist on formal dress code. Recitals are not paid ticketed events in large concert venues. They're held on a Saturday night after hours. And staff members who the lessons students see on a weekly basis are there to support them and cheer them on. And family and friends are welcome. Usually, we encourage teachers to, host, a little social and, bring food and drinks and stuff. And we provided space for that. And so we try to just make it really easy for teachers to create some community in their studio by hosting regular recitals. And on top of that, the store also hosts lots of different performance events for students and for just customers throughout the year, including just open mic nights, which we did one a couple nights ago, and that was ridiculous. We went for 4 straight hours without any repeat acts. It was kind of ridiculous. A normal open mic night's about 2 hours, and it was a rager. It was a great time. Um, so then we also do student performance festivals a couple times a year. So sometimes we do them at third parties. Like there's a really good local record shop that has a huge stage, like a
Oh,
legit concert venue just in town. And so we've had student events there. We've had student events at local theaters that are just, just fun to change things up. But then we've also done them outside in our parking lots and like rented big stages with tents and had the sound crew come out so that the kids feel like they're playing at a festival stage. And we get breweries and all kinds of vendors to come out and people just show up and have a good time. So lots of opportunities for folks to just hang out and get to know each other.
yeah, it didn't take you long to answer that question. And you went straight into the community, the performance opportunities, the recitals.
Mhm.
And I've felt the same way forever, as that every single person coming to those, getting scared and playing at an open mic, and then they play their song and they're so proud. First thing they want to do, they want to go put that on Instagram, right?
That's
And
right.
and you have you have a performance space in your school. There's a stage area, right?
Yes, in both of them. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to talk about that other school in a second too, because I want to get to that. Yeah. And so that is huge, is putting the energy into these opportunities for people to be musicians. And I will say this in every podcast episode that we record, is I've never been more optimistic for our work than I am right now in the age of AI that's making the world. I've been saying it for like 5 years. Now I feel more and more certain the real value that you're giving kids and adults is music, obviously, because that's awesome. But you're really creating humans, and you're creating people that know how to like
Yeah.
chat like this and look people each other in the eyes, and how to express themselves and how to communicate. And
Yes.
for a parent sitting at their desk at work with a child who is disengaged from school, unhappy, teenager, going through the things, and they see their friend share a performance of their child just feeling included and part of something awesome and putting themselves out there and being brave, that's like the best marketing in the whole. I'm going to pay whatever that costs. I say
Right.
this every time. Both my wife's an actor, I'm a guitar player. Both my kids were excellent or are excellent athletes. I'm paying for these people that are amazing coaches and trainers to
Yeah.
give the kids what I can't, and it's not about the sports. I want them to be in this community, in this environment of people who appreciate greatness, but also who are learning how discipline works and creativity and expression. And I love seeing it. And it's so valuable to me because I can't do it. And for
You're so
95% of our
right.
population, they can't do it. So what you're really doing there is you're defining your value proposition. It's The feature in this case is that you do all these events. The benefit is you're creating awesome humans that feel like they belong somewhere when they walk in that store.
Yeah.
Like I know it. I've seen this for years at your school, but that is, marketing 101 is benefits over features. And the features, you're offering this performance opportunity throughout the year.
Yeah.
So the real benefit is feeling included and feeling loved and feeling expressive and growing into like a cooler person. So it's
Yes.
like, what parent's not going to pay for that?
Right. Have you ever read Start with Why?
Yeah, yeah. Simon
It-
Sinek.
yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah,
basically explaining that concept in a microcosm, right? It's
yeah,
just it's the why is this important? Why is this valuable? Why should we do this instead of the features? Like, what are you getting out of this?
yeah. And you've just done a great job with it. And I'm going to jump for just a
That's so
second
kind.
because you explained that really, really well. And there's so many things that I want to talk about. We might not even get through them all today because I just have a list of questions I want to ask you. You just mentioned the Simon Sinek book, and I know
Yeah.
that you're someone, and as a team, I see your socials of you guys are always out there with like Better Business Bureau stuff. You're at events, a small SBA, small business associations. You're networking. You just mentioned something really important that I wanted to point out too. Oh, and then we're partnering with local breweries. We go to this record store. Oh, kid, you playing music that you're really part of something. You know what's really cool is to have a turntable. That's how we listen to music. And all the great
Yes.
artists now make their money from records. So when you go to a concert, buy a record, get a turntable with some good headphones in your room. This is be creating a flywheel in your community where I'm pretty sure the breweries like to come and set up a tent at your shows because people are pumped and they're doing their
Oh yeah.
things.
I'm pretty
When
sure that guy Saturday night from the local brewery made like he probably sold like $400 or $500 worth of beer to our crowd that night.
yeah, this is a win-win for everybody doing these cool things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about in your journey of these, because I know that you're doing it. I read that you had recently done some kind of personal development thing through Goldman Sachs, this entrepreneur
Yes.
thing. And I want to focus on that because we're talking about all these wins, but I know that you all work really hard and you're also constantly trying to improve, which is really important. So well, tell me a little about this Goldman Sachs entrepreneurship
Yeah.
thing.
I am always looking for ways to improve my education because like I said at the beginning of this, I failed out of college. So, as the leader of a company now, I'm always trying to look for more ways to just acquire more knowledge in ways that I can help my people. And I found this program that Goldman Sachs offers called 10,000 Small Businesses. The more I learned about it, it's a nationwide thing. I would highly encourage anyone listening to see if they can apply for this. They do it all over the country in like cohorts in small groups, and you have to have you have to be a small business owner to apply for it. And I think they do it in groups of 30 people per class. And so I had to apply and do a couple of interviews and give them my business financial history. And from there, they paid the full tuition expense. They paid for all my travel expenses and all of just for the whole thing, didn't cost me a dime.
What?
It's basically a condensed master's degree into like 3 months worth of coursework, where it's highly focused on entrepreneurship and creating growth opportunities within your business. And there are lots of networking opportunities. It's run through universities. So Babson College in Massachusetts, who is like one of the top business schools in the country, worked with Goldman Sachs to build the curriculum, and there are a bunch of Babson professors that teach the classes. And then they actually hold them just at community colleges throughout the country wherever you go. So I think I went to oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Bridge Valley Community and Technical College in Charleston, West Virginia. So I was part of the first cohort from the state of West Virginia, which is pretty cool. And then there are thousands of alumni all over the country from this program. They've been doing this for like 15 years.
Huh.
And there's a huge network of people that they will connect you with. And it seems like a pretty friendly group. Like anytime I've needed, any kind of resources, they've always been very helpful.
How
So
did you
that's
discover this?
Instagram.
No kidding.
It was a freaking Instagram ad, and I stopped and was like, is this real? And digging into the website, it's a very legitimate program. And so I applied and started, the interview process. And a few months later, they were like, "Congratulations, you got in."
And it was really impactful. What
Yeah.
was one of your biggest takeaways from your time in that?
There is this feeling of isolation that entrepreneurs feel when they are doing their day-to-day job. And it feels like no one would ever understand this insane thing that I'm going through. No one would ever understand the unique situation that I have. No one has ever been through these problems. No one would ever possibly get this. And it turns out that is all completely wrong. And it was really extremely validating to sit in a class with 30 other business owners and listen to their stories. I really, really enjoyed getting to know all the people in the class and just learning from their experiences. I think that was
Wow.
the most profound thing I got out of that.
You felt like you weren't alone.
I did. Yeah.
You know, and I would like to just concur with everything you just said because it is being an entrepreneur is so liberating and freeing and exciting because you have all this autonomy. It is so
Right.
hard all the time, and there are pitfalls every day. You know, for me, it was just the idea of like, wow, if this person won't eat that works for me or is working on this company, like this is a lot, and entrepreneurs lose sleep. They work all the time. They don't know if it's going to work and knowing that, and that's just the way it is. And there's
Yeah.
something crazy about it that it's also, I don't know if you found this, it's kind of addictive where the end,
Oh,
you're like, I'm never doing that again. And you're like, but boy, it sure is fun. Like there's
yeah.
something to it where it's
Turns
really,
out I have that problem too. Yeah, like I started a new LLC this year in the midst of all the chaos, and I have expansion plans for a third that I think is going to
okay.
next year, among some other plans for Sloan School of Music. Can't say too much about that yet, but I will tell you about the second one. That's the MelodyMap thing that I had mentioned to you earlier.
Yes, I'm going to jump over to that. And before we do, I just wanted to thank you for again sharing how you discovered that opportunity.
Yeah,
Keep your eyes open. Like
yeah,
everybody, it's not rocket science how people discover success. It's of course hard work. It's not luck. It is just keeping your eyes open and saying, what's interesting? That's what, and be curious. Oh, is this thing legit? Oh, wow, it is legit. Wow, I got
right.
this, and this turns into this thing. That is the difference that I see between the 5% of people that really do this stuff. David Cutler, who wrote the book, The Savvy Music Teacher, I probably recommended it to you
Yeah,
back in the day. In his new book, he talks about, there's two types of people. There's people who do things and there's people who don't. And I love how he simplifies that down and condenses that in because it's true. You're like, I could never do that. I'll never get PRS on my walls. It's like, no, you just look. And I think that's a theme from this particular conversation that I just want to really highlight is that it's really about just opening your eyes and being curious and digging into ideas and seeing if it might work, being okay if it doesn't. And so moving into this next topic, I want to talk about your new venture. And before we do, I just want to the last where we just left you. You had said, "Oh, we had around 150 students. Now we're seeing 750 students each week." And I believe that is that your capacity? Last time we talked, you had an issue where you were just out of space for lessons, basically, and that was your big problem. Is you had two locations at this point, and they were
yeah.
both just like you're like we don't know what else to do. Like we're out of space.
No, we're not quite at capacity yet, but
Okay.
we're definitely having some difficulties there. And in the interest of planning ahead, we're always trying to figure out how to manage a little bit more growth. But it's definitely a logistical challenge. Between the two stores, I think there are 16 or 17 studios, and between those two rooms, or between that group of rooms, there are two band rooms that are large enough for ensembles. Unfortunately, we can't have rehearsals out on the stage during business hours because it's way too loud for people to have conversations in the store, and then it bleeds into the lesson studios too. So the lesson studios, um, it's just a juggling act. It's a, the team's got it down. It kind of amazes me all the things that the guys have figured out.
Got it. And
Yeah.
tell me about your new venture.
Yeah, so MelodyMap is a website that is designed to help prospective students and families find quality lesson providers. Wherever you are, sometimes it's pretty difficult to find a good music teacher. And so if you find yourself on our website, you can type in your zip code or the city or state you live in, and it'll pop up a list of independent music lesson providers in that area, and in order of reviews. And we also have a whole bunch of other resources that can help provide clarity and simplify the process for new lesson parents. So we intend to work directly with businesses, and it'll be a marketing platform for business clients. But the real value is to students who can really easily find themselves overwhelmed when they're trying to begin this process, or for parents in particular who don't know where to begin. We can really help them avoid overwhelm and save some time.
Yeah, a trusted source
Yes.
of helping to find. And you said the word good, and it's really interesting because I see a lot of this too, where it's really the right fit too. The finding the teacher that's the right fit for your learning style and your goals, where you are in that moment. Sometimes you need a real disciplinarian, sometimes you need a real empath that's just trying
Right.
to, and those are really, really important to be able to find a way to vet these teachers. Because I think for a family who doesn't know anything about music, they basically have two ways to kind of, one, they're looking around, they're seeing what their friends are doing, hoping,
Right.
and they don't know. And so this sounds like a really cool thing. Is this live yet?
Yeah, you can check it out right now. It's
Yep.
melodymap.io.
Okay. And I'm going to share all these links today. Yeah, I
Cool.
would. Yeah, I was checking it out this morning. So that's looking awesome. And how is that going to work with the work that you're doing with Sloan?
Well, hopefully it'll be a source of new student leads for both of the music schools. So the idea hit me one day when the team was like, man, I wish we had a different source of leads that we could call other than the pre-enroll form on our existing website. And I kind of just went, why isn't there? And how can people find us other than our existing site? And just Googling music lessons or music store near me. So I thought it would be useful if there was a trusted source that people could find, independent lesson providers all over the country. There are great schools hiding out there in many communities, and there are also lots of independent teachers that don't necessarily have branded studios that are just hanging out in their house, or they might have a one-room studio somewhere, or they do in-home lessons. There are lots of different ways that people make a living teaching music. And so I think it's really cool to be able to give folks like that a way for students to find them, because SEO is really expensive,
Yeah.
and big box competitors have an unfair advantage in that world.
I was going to ask you, I know the answer to this question already, but I want to hear your reply, which is okay, cool. How would you say that you're differentiating from other lead gen sources such as Take Lessons or Thumbtack that are out there trying to do a similar
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, I mean those platforms already kind of want to sell you the lessons themselves. Like they want to micromanage the entire process and then be the payment source between you and the teacher. So they want to stick themselves right in the middle and create ongoing subscription revenue for themselves. And we really just want to focus on turning a interested customer into a warm lead for a teacher, and making the process of getting started as a musician simpler for people who don't know what they're doing, but just want to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that also the level of care, if you can bake that into what you're doing and actual legitimate reviews, and because that was the thing that always really turned me off about those lead gen sources in general, because I
Yeah.
really explored them a lot.
Yeah, me
Is
too.
some people have luck with them. Some people they work for some people in certain markets,
Sure.
but it was definitely the old story of just it's a lead gen business and they're doing whatever they can. So, I every day, once a week, I'll get a message from one of them saying, Eric, you have a student waiting for you in Seattle, Washington. I'm like, no, I don't. Oh, click here to open up your profile. It's like from 7 years ago. I'm like, no, I don't. I know what this is. I know this is marketing 101. So anyway, I'm really appreciative that you're doing that. Is that a big time commitment for you? Is that
It's ramping up right now. That's been this year, and funnily enough, the my business partner in that is a web developer who I met at the Goldman Sachs program. So
Oh,
it's interesting how those things kind of pan out, over time. I mean, I wasn't looking for a reason to start another business when I went in there. I was looking to really gain financial management knowledge, that which was I felt like the biggest gap in my management ability as a leader.
I,
And I got a lot of that. So then it turns out I also made some friends, and now here we are.
and you've started another company, and that is another very recurring theme. Take a really
Yep.
busy person, and they're just going to do something else. If you want to get
Well,
something
I
done,
think
give it to a busy person.
that's right. That's right. I think entrepreneurs, most of us that I've met that work for themselves full time, uh, just have this um, energy about them where it just never quite turns off. And so you're kind of always observing the world and trying to solve problems.
Yeah, it's what makes you tick. That's
Right.
what makes you tick. Well, I wanted to just kind of because I wanted to wrap this up soon with a couple other questions, and I thought might be really fun is I was on a podcast not too long where there was this lightning round of questions, but I have a few that I wanted to throw out at you that I thought would
Great.
be really fun. And I want you just to answer these quick and off the cuff as
Okay.
quickly as you can. But let's just kind of wrap up with this today. And again, before we do take off, I'm gonna put your links to your website. And definitely sounds like MelodyMap is something. It's like if I'm a piano teacher in Topeka, Kansas, can I sign up for this and
You
get my
can
studio on this?
just the friendly warning is it's in the development stages. So
Okay.
you can go on there, you can sign up, and we'll if you do, we'll be in touch with you real soon.
Well, I'm going to check it out for
Please
my
do.
studio. Yeah, I've got a couple openings coming up in the new year that I'm looking forward to filling for myself. So anyway, I'll check it out. I'd love to help however I can because I want
Thank
to
you.
learn about this thing. So here's something that I wanted to ask you about. What is your go-to recommended guitar for I come in for a new student? Electric.
Probably a PRSSE.
Totally. That's mine too.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you can do everything with it. Yep.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
looks like a McCarty almost. It's like
That's
looks like a
right.
real guitar and they play great. Okay.
That's right. I mean, even before I was a dealer for PRS, so now I'm biased, but there's lots of reasons for that. Even before I was a dealer and I was just teaching for a different company, I recommended PRS SCs the most because I felt like I could trust them. Like they stay in tune, they play great. You could just pull it out of the box and go take it to a gig, and it sounds good. Like
They're
and they
consistent.
just keep getting better.
I feel there's a Taylor model called the 314 that's like that's my steel string that
This one,
yeah, you mean that one? Mine yours has
yeah,
the that's
I
so
got the I
funny.
got the cutaway. Yeah.
I've been playing those for 20 some years, 25 years,
Yep.
because they're all the same. And I've had to been on gigs before, and I'm like, oh, and I didn't have the right guitar. I just go get one of those from the local music store. They'll let me borrow it. They're all and I've loved them. And now Taylor has this kind of this I think it's called the was like the audition or the no, it's called the Academy series, which is
Yeah.
like which they're great. It's like the
Yep.
same thing. This is this is great. I love that we both have the same guitar there too. That's really funny.
I love that.
What about for beginning acoustic guitar? What do you recommend at your store?
I think you really can't go wrong with any of the Martin X series,
X series.
or the Rhodes series. I mean, of course, if you have it in your budget to get like a D18 or something like that, I mean, then
Yeah.
you're gonna have that's a lifetime instrument right there. It's only gonna get better with time. But if you walk in and get like a D10 or a double O triple O10 or something like that, or a DX2, I mean, those things are freaking awesome for the money. They
Yeah.
play great, they
Yep.
sound great, they
They're
look
bomb
cool.
proof.
They really are. I could not speak more highly of the quality control that they've got going on over there too. They've really got their stuff figured out.
Yeah, and I'm a big proponent when families ask me about guitars.
Mhm.
I am not a person that gets something cheap and then level up in 6 months. I'm like, get something good. Like with the PRS SE, you spend a little bit more, you get something that you fall in love with.
Right.
It makes you want to play it so much. And
That's right.
it's not like we're talking about violins where they're 10 times as
No,
expensive.
it's so true. It's so true.
You can
But
get
if you
something
just
you
need a
love to
bottom of the
play.
barrel budget acoustic guitar, Yamaha FG 800, 200
Cannot beat
bucks,
it.
and you can't go wrong with those things.
Yeah, I recently went to, no, this is a couple years ago. My best friend and I went guitar shopping for him. He's a pretty good player, and he was going to get himself a really great guitar, and he had a nice budget for it. And we ended up stomping into this used store in Seattle, and he fell in love with this like mid or late '60s FG Yamaha that he got for
Cool.
like 180 bucks. And we got and it plays amazing. To this day, it's his go-to guitar. And he's like, it's all I ever want. And I was like, man, this is just amazing. That's a really good
He's
one
like, I
too.
was gonna buy a D28 and I bought this old FG 800.
He just loves it. Uh,
That's awesome.
that is what was your first favorite instrument? Or what I mean, I know you have all we never talked about this. What is your most favorite guitar? Is that even a possible question right now?
Funnily enough, my most favorite guitar is probably a PRS McCarty, which is in my case on the other side of the room. But I also,
Oh, I can show people what it looks like. It looks like this. This is
yeah, it
my Paul
does.
Reed Smith McCarty, which is
Mine is Sunburst.
it's so funny we get along so well, right,
Isn't
Anthony?
that great, man? It's parallel lives, dude. This was my teaching guitar though. This is a PRS 509,
Yeah.
and this was made in 2018, and the switch works kind of like a Strat. It's got five-way pickup selector, but then it has these cool mini toggles that can coil split these so that it deactivates the inner pickup and they become true single coils.
So versatile, so cool.
Yeah, that's a Swiss Army knife of a guitar. PRS does cool stuff with their setups too. Like I sent this back to the factory and they made the gloss neck into a satin neck, changed the tuning pegs, and did
Beautiful.
some fun electronics mods for me. So these things are really just great.
Okay, great. And what about this? Is there, you mentioned, I think start with why. Is there a particular business book or help book that you find to be the most impactful on your journey from to where you are? If you had to pick one off your shelf to recommend to somebody who was starting out,
Start with Why is great. I
it is.
also particularly liked Brene Brown, Dare to Lead.
That is a great answer. What'd you love about that?
The what the term she uses is rumble, right? The just to describe like difficult conversations at work. And the thing I really carried out of that book was the clear is kind. So
Say that
um,
again.
clear is kind. It is
Clear is
her
kind.
three word mantra, and I say it to my team all the time, and I've heard my team say it to other people. But just equating being clear and upfront with somebody with kindness and the opposite, ambiguity or a lack of clarity with unkindness.
That's something I have to say I see a lot of, especially with people getting started. And it's not ambiguity and unkindness out of on purpose. It's because they don't know how to say what they need to in a concise way without being afraid of what the response might be. That's a
Right.
leadership thing, is
It
being
is.
comfortable saying what you need to say clearly, because it is scary to sometimes say things when you're leading people and you might have to be they're on their journey to try to help them do better. That's a great answer, and it's really an awesome mantra that clarity is kindness. Clarity with kindness is a great thing to aspire to.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well,
Uh,
Dr. Brown is someone who I definitely find inspiring at
yeah.
almost any time I listen to something that she has to say. She's one of those people who I find so shockingly intelligent. It sometimes I have to listen to her in pieces and then kind of go digest what she has to say and then move on to the next thing.
And lastly, something else that we've shared is you've built this company, you run this business. We talked about how much friends and family are important to you, but you're also a dad,
Yeah.
and you've done this being a parent. And I think that's really important because that change, it's everything becomes so much more difficult, obviously, when you're managing a family or doing those things, especially as an entrepreneur with what's being asked of you.
Yeah.
What's the been the best part about having a family and having kids and being a music school owner?
I think being able to relate to the parents that come in there and are living vicariously through their children. Because I'm a parent myself, I get it. Like I've been on both sides of the equation as a parent of a child who plays music, and my son plays the violin and piano and has taken lessons for a long time, even before Sloan School of Music. So he played a couple of years of high school orchestra and does romantic pieces on the piano with startling amounts of emotional inflection. It's a thing, but the it just the ability to relate to the parents, I think, is something that I don't take for granted that I probably get from being a parent also.
That you get it.
Yeah.
Well, that is a great answer. Thanks for sharing it. Well, Anthony, this has been such a cool chat, man. We knew it was going to be.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope we get to do it again soon. I am going to come visit you and hang out in your school. That is on my list of things to do. Don't let me buy any guitars. No, it's okay. Please let me buy guitars. Anyway, I really appreciate
we'll talk,
you.
man. I got a shop full of PRSs.
Yeah, I should probably not come to your school. But anyway, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for this time. This was a great chat. I think it's going to be really helpful to a lot of people. So thanks for sharing, and I look forward to talking to you again soon, man. Thanks so much.
Anytime, my friend. Have a great day. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the 440 Podcast. If you found this helpful, subscribe at Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a quick rating. It makes a big difference. To learn more about how to run your teaching studio with less stress and more joy, visit fonz.com. I'm Eric Branner. Thanks for being here.